Howdy folks, and welcome back to War Thunder with the mighty Jingles. It's realistic battle time again. This time it's one of the events. This is the Siege of Malta. I'm flying the Spitfire Mark 5C and defending the port of Valletta and Malta Grand Harbour from the dastardly Hun. I've actually been to Malta a couple of times with the Navy. It's not the same as it was back in the 50s and 60s when there was a permanent Royal Naval presence at Grand Harbour in Valletta. But it's still a fantastic place and a great place to visit for the Royal Navy. Maltese women, oh my lordy, they are fine. The only problem with Maltese women, certainly in my experience, was that Maltese women all have Maltese brothers. And Maltese brothers seem to all carry knives and they'll stab you if you look at Maltese girls. So there's that, but it was still a great place to visit. Another little fact about Malta, the Russell Crowe movie Gladiator was filmed here. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it was filmed here in Malta. They actually built a quarter of the Colosseum here, filled in the rest with digital effects. And all of the Colosseum fight sequences were filmed here. Speaking of Gladiator, the British actor Oliver Reed, famous Hellraiser, also in Gladiator, played Proximo the slave dealer. He died in Malta. And if you've ever heard of Oliver Reed's legendary off-screen exploits, it'll come as no surprise to you to learn that he died of a heart attack while getting drunk with British sailors from the frigate HMS Cumberland. It's probably exactly the way he would have wanted to go. Of course, in the context of War Thunder, Malta is, of course, most famous for the Siege of Malta during World War II. A campaign that lasted nearly 2.5 years in the Second World War, from June 1940 to November 1942. Malta was a strategically important island with a huge natural harbour and a massive Royal Naval base, as well as air bases for the Royal Air Force situated right in the middle of the Mediterranean. And it became even more important when Rommel and the German Afrika Korps opened a new front in North Africa. From Malta, the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force could interdict all the resupply shipping that was heading to North Africa for Rommel's forces there. Over the course of 2.5 years, the Luftwaffe and the Italian Regia Aeronautica conducted 3,000 bombing raids on Malta, and more on the resupply convoys attempting to reach Malta through the Mediterranean, in an attempt to bomb or starve Malta into submission. And this realistic battle event in War Thunder simulates the later stages of the Siege of Malta, when the Royal Air Force actually had some Spitfires to throw up against the Bf-109s that the Luftwaffe was using. In the earlier stages of the campaign, the Royal Air Force was only equipped with Hurricanes, and in some cases Gloucester Gladiator biplanes. Quite famous, 3 Gloucester Gladiator biplanes named Faith, Hope and Charity at one point were the only air defences that Malta had. By this stage of the siege, Air Vice Marshal Keith Park had arrived and taken over fighter command on Malta, and with the adoption of improved tactics, the Spitfires started to get the upper hand over the Bf-109s. In recognition of the courage and fortitude of the people of Malta for enduring 2.5 years of siege, starvation and aerial bombardment, King George VI awarded the entire island the George Cross. The George Cross is Britain's highest civilian award for gallantry. It's the equivalent of the Victoria Cross. In a letter to the Governor of Malta, dated 15th of April 1942, that accompanied the award of the medal, King George wrote, "To honour her brave people, I award the George Cross to the island fortress of Malta to bear witness to a heroism and devotion that will long be famous in history." Meanwhile, here in War Thunder, I've got a choice of HE-111s to go after. Now that guy's clearly seen me coming, so he's going into a dive. Now while there's another HE-111 up here at my altitude, I don't want to throw away this height advantage to chase after that guy, and it's a good move from that guy. He only has 1 bomb load. It's realistic battle. There are no mid-air reloads. There we go, he's knocked out one of the area bases. So I'm going to leave him to it. I can go after him later, stay at this altitude, take out this guy instead. 4 20mm Hispano cannons. Shot out his ailerons, and I'm I'm not going to follow the guy down, because with the critical damage that I inflicted on him and the attitude his aircraft was at, he's probably not going to be able to pull out of that dive. Yep, he's going down. And we got him. Now, bizarrely enough, this other HE-111 didn't use the speed that he generated in that dive on the area target to run for home. Instead, he's basically committing suicide. It may be that he had some bombs left, and one of those two Hurricanes was still on the runway, and he was trying to bomb himself a Hurricane on the ground. But in order to do that, he had to fly over our airbase, and the flak guns that surround the airbases, they're absolutely lethal. And so, well, he got shot down by AAA. Meanwhile, looks like the barrage balloons have just claimed a victim. There was an MC-200, which was going after the barrage balloons over Grand Harbour. He shot one of them down, but then he crashed. For those of you who might have seen those big balloons tethered over urban areas in war movies and wondered exactly what the hell they were for, the threat wasn't the balloons themselves. The threat was the cables, steel cables that tethered the balloons to the ground. It basically made a maze of cables that aircraft had to fly through in order to get anywhere near the ground targets. And that's what killed the MC-200. He flew into one of the barrage balloon cables. Now, yeah, there was an MC-202 diving on a Beaufighter, and I was thinking about going down to help him out, but there's not just a Beaufighter down there. Beaufighter and two Hurricanes, so 3 on 1. I'm not going to sacrifice the height that I have, and yep, there he goes. That was a poor decision by the MC-202 pilot, and yeah, one of the Hurricanes got him. The Hurricanes were actually doing really, really well in this event. They're shooting down aircraft all over the place. There's a BF-109 shot down by one of the Hurricanes. Meanwhile, I'm still maintaining altitude, and I'm thinking about going for that Ju-87 next. Having a look below me. Nothing seems to be threatening Grand Harbour directly, other than this Ju-87. And as long as I can shoot straight, a Ju-87 stands no chance against a Mark 5C Spitfire. He doesn't appear to have noticed me, or he just doesn't care. Put myself into a shallow dive. I'm approaching him from the beam. Cut the throttle. I want to rip my wings off. I have done that before. Climb, wing over, slot in, right on his tail. And I'm going to get good and close, because I don't have a lot of ammunition for these 20mm guns. And now, let him have it. And climb. Don't always automatically try to get into a turning fight, even when you're flying something manoeuvrable like a Spitfire. Climb, cut, there we go. We got him anyway, but I was in a perfect position to dive back down on his tail. And resisting the urge to immediately throw an aircraft like the Spitfire into a turning battle is something that I really did have to learn the hard way. The superior manoeuvrability of an aircraft like the Spitfire, or for example a Zero, is something that you should save until you need it, rather than immediately being the first thing that you do. You should always try to go vertical first, gain altitude, and continue diving on your opponent if you can. And then when you can't do that anymore, that's when you pull your turning ability out of your sleeve and beat them that way. And the reason you do that is because if you immediately throw your aircraft into a turning fight, you start to lose speed. Speed is life in air-to-air combat. Even though the Spitfire is not an energy fighter, like a BF-109 for example, constantly jockeying for the higher altitude position in order to dive on the enemy is always the safest tactic, because when you're diving on the enemy, you're building up speed. And then if you suddenly need to get into a turning fight, you've got the speed to enable you to sustain that turning fight for longer. And that's why you should always use your superior manoeuvrability last, rather than it being the first thing that you do. It's all about keeping options in reserve. If the first thing that you do is start getting into a turning dogfight with an enemy plane, you have no more options. Once you've committed yourself to a turning dogfight, you pretty much have to stay in a turning dogfight until one of you is dead, because you start bleeding speed off so fast that you no longer have the option of going vertical. If you start off by going vertical, you always have the option of turning it into a turning dogfight. More importantly, you also have the option of getting the hell out of there if the situation suddenly becomes unfavourable, say a second enemy aircraft turns up, because you haven't bled all your speed away by getting into a turning fight. So anyway, I've got 2 kills, which is my record in a realistic battle. 2 kills is the most I've ever managed to do. And I think at this stage, I mean, we were really kicking the German and Italian. Oh, there we go. I think there are only 2 enemy pilots left up, and we've just spotted one of them, another HE-111. Now, I've got a Hurricane down there who's in a better position to go for that guy. So I'm just going to fly top cover for him, because there is still one other enemy pilot out there somewhere. We don't know exactly where he is. Have a quick look around and behind me. I do have the sun behind me. If he's diving at me out of the sun, I would not see it until it was too late. So I'm going to fly top cover for the Hurricane who's going after the HE-111, while keeping an eye open for the other enemy pilot who would think is in a BF-109. Again, you know, that guy's he's got a Spitfire on him now as well, so there's absolutely no point in me diving after that guy. Why give up this altitude advantage, particularly when we know that there is at least one other enemy pilot around. There he is, and it's a BF-109F, and I'm in a fantastic position to take him. Messing around with the keyboard commands here, this is all new to me. I very rarely use them. It's almost as if this guy just doesn't know I'm here, and that suits me just fine. Never give a sucker an even fight. Fair fights are for losers. You should always try to make the fight as unfair for the enemy as you possibly can. Yep, hit him. And again, critted him. Beautiful kill. And my 3rd kill. This is now officially my most successful, my best realistic battle ever. I've never managed 3 kills before. I normally get 1, sometimes I get 2, but I've never done 3. And we've just spotted the final enemy fighter, another BF-109 who had landed to reload and repair, and he's coming up again. And he's in a terrible, terrible situation. Low altitude, he's not going to be able to build up any speed while he's climbing. There's a bow fighter going in for him. Now, I don't have a lot of ammunition left, but I haven't exactly been wasting my shots in this game. So, I could still kill this guy, but I'm not going to get greedy. There's a lot of planes on him. I'm just going to fly top cover, and I'll pounce on this guy if he tries to go vertical. He's the only one left. I don't need to worry about flying top cover anymore, so I'm going to keep the superior position, and if this guy gives me a clear shot, I will take it. But I don't want to get in the way of those 2 planes down there, who, you know, this is really their fight. If the BF-109 starts climbing, I will... Oh, there we go. Hurricane got him. Good shooting. They didn't need my help after all. And more importantly, I didn't get in their way by being greedy for the kill. I mean, I've got 3 kills. 4 would have been fantastic, but the airspace was getting pretty crowded down there. It would have been a real sucky way to end this realistic battle by getting myself shot down by getting in the way of friendly fire. So yeah, I'm happy with 3 kills. An HE-111, Ju-87 and a BF-109F, and they were all easy kills. And they weren't easy kills because I'm a great pilot, because I'm not a great pilot. There wasn't that much flying skill involved. They were easy kills because of the tactics and positioning that I employed. If I'd ever been in a position where I was flying against a superior pilot in positions where neither of us had the clear advantage, I would have probably gotten my arse kicked. But I didn't. Because in any position where I didn't have a clear advantage over the opponent, I just didn't get involved in the fight. So that performance unlocked the Tempest Mark II, the Royal New Zealand Air Force decal, a minor challenge award, the Fighter Medal, and because I never once put myself in a position where I was ever going to get shot at by the guys I was attacking, the Bulletproof Award, which is nice. As always folks, watch your 6, and I'll catch you next time.